Namaskar. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, all the brothers and sisters. So this excerpt is from a longer darshan that Baba gave. It was entitled Salvation and Devotion, given in 1966 at DMC in Mumbai. Baba reminds us in this darshan that one who has devotion in hand has salvation at one's command. Of course, there's a lot of powering down of the ego that is required to attain this level of devotion. So the exhaustion of all our sanskars is, or many of our sanskars, I might say, helps to powder down the ego of the jnani and karma yogis. So then the devotee is one who serves the world and the universe to please Brahma-Purush. The devotee performs sadhana to please Brahma-Purush. So people who do service with this ideation to impart bliss to Brahma-Purush are the true devotees. They are called Gopa. So Dada had requested that I share some devotional stories with you. These stories I'm going to share with you come from a trip that I took to Venezuela with Baba and his party. By Baba's grace, I was able to go on the plane with Baba and his party to Caracas, Venezuela in 1979. The first morning that I was there, I was told that I had an opportunity to go on a field walk with Baba. And this was to be in an ecological, a botanical garden. So this was on Monday morning, and usually the park, the biological garden was closed on Monday for the public. But they had allowed Baba and his party to come there, but in order to not alert the public, we entered from the rear of the botanical garden. As we entered the garden, there was a long staircase, a stone staircase that Baba was walking down, and he was walking very gingerly with his cane in his right hand and Ramananda on his left elbow. And Baba, halfway down the stairs, stopped and said, "I require assistance still because of my eyesight was damaged when I was in prison." He said, "They tried to poison me, but they did not succeed, did they?" And we said, "Yes, Baba, they did not succeed." And then Baba took a few more steps, and then he raised his cane and he pointed towards some plants that were about 30 yards away. And he said, "Those plants were brought here by the Portuguese in 1948. And he gave the genus and species and family of the plant. And we were all amazed that his eyesight was good enough to see 30 yards away. I was carrying his chair, and we walked another few yards, and we came to a platform that was over a pool of water that was receiving a very large waterfall. And Baba says, "I'll sit here for a few moments." And so I put his chair down, and Baba sat in the chair, and he and I both looked at the waterfall. And as I was looking at the waterfall, it reminded me of a waterfall that I had seen in Ireland when I was on a trip with my mother some years earlier. And my mother had asked a question, "Where is all this water coming from?" Because apparently it was coming off of a large hill, but there was no watershed. And the bus driver said to my mother, "I'm sorry, madam, I'll have to get back to you on that." But we didn't understand where all that water was coming from with no watershed. And this situation was very much like that. There was a very large waterfall that didn't seem to have a watershed. And so as I was thinking this, Baba looks up at me and he says, "My son, do you understand where water comes from to create waterfalls?" And I knew instantly he was answering the question I always had, can he read my mind? And I said, "Well, yes, Baba, I know some sources." And he said, "What are those?" I said, "Well, there are some waterfalls that are fed by snowfall and rainfall, and then the others are fed by springs that are in the mountains." And he says, "Yes, those are two sources, but what is the third source?" And I said, "I don't know, Baba." He said, in a situation like this, with low undulating hills and a high water table, the water forces itself out at the highest point. It's called the artesian principle. Now, my son, do you understand? And I said, "Yes, Baba. Yes, I understand." And so then Baba decided to continue walking, and he continued talking about the derivation of the word water from Latin and Greek. And he went on to give a talk about the bifurcation of the languages, which later led to a book that Baba wrote on the derivation of languages. So after this field walk, Aditi and I were talking, what is the structure of the field walk? What is this about? What is Baba offering us in a field walk? And Didi and I concluded that, well, he's very much like a friend and a teacher on the field walk. Baba is very different than when he's running the organization as the president. So he's like a friend and a teacher. And and so we were concluding that these field walks not only was Baba being a friend and a teacher, but he was also showing us the interconnectedness of all of creation, from the plant world to the animal world to the human world. So a couple of days later, I had the opportunity to take a walk with Baba, a field walk with Baba at a zoological garden. And when we entered that zoological garden, the first animals we came to were the lions and the tigers. And Baba asked us, which family do these animals belong to? And we all said, the feline family, Baba. And he says, "Is that so?" He said, "Look at this animal with a rounded skull," pointing to the tiger. He said, "It has a rounded skull, and is it not a solitary hunter?" We said, "Yes, Baba, it's a solitary hunter." "It has retractable claws, does it not? And it has a very short intestine to eject waste." And we said, "Yes, Baba, that's correct." And he said, "Look at this other animal," pointing to the lion. "It has a very angular head, and it does not have retractable claws, and does it not hunt in prides?" And we said, "Yes, Baba, it hunts in prides." And he said, "How is it these animals with such different characteristics belong to the same family?" We said, "Well, Dada, that's where taxonomists have put these families, in the feline family." He said, No. This animal," pointing to the lion, "is the largest member of the canine family, the dog family." So Baba was rewriting the classification of these animals. So then we started walking further, and we came to a platform above a pond with an alligator lying half out of the pond on the beach of this pond, and it had its mouth wide open, and an egret was standing beside the open jaws of the alligator and picking meat from the teeth of the alligator. And Baba says, "You see these two animals? They're an example of coordinated cooperation. The alligator gets his teeth clean, and the egret is fed food." And then one Venezuelan Marga came running up very excitedly and said, "Baba, do you know what they call this animal in Spanish?" And Baba said, "What is that?" "They call it Baba." And then Baba took his both hands and pointing toward himself and said, "But this Baba is not so dangerous. This Baba is not so dangerous." And then we began walking by the animals with rudimentary flippers, the sea lions and the seals. And Baba says, "You see all these animals, they once lived on land, and they evolved back into the sea to escape predators. And as I started thinking about all the animals in this classification, it occurred to me that whales were also part of this classification. And they were once land dwellers and evolved back into the sea. And then my next thought went to the blue whales, which were being heavily harvested by the Japanese and Russians and threatening extinction of blue whales. And so I walked up to Baba and I said, Baba, are blue whales about to become extinct? And he looked at me in my eyes and he said, my son, one day people with blue eyes and blonde hair will be extinct. And I took that rather personally. And then Baba said, one day people will come here from another planet and observe the ruins of this civilization. And they will say there was once a great society here that built tall buildings and had an advanced technology, but they couldn't learn to live together and they destroyed each other. He looked at me and he said, my son, do you want that history should read this way? Do you want that history should read this way? And I said, no, Baba. We'll have to serve humanity and accomplish our mission. So these are some of the devotional stories that I was fortunate to be able to share with you today. And I hope that they bring to you this feeling of intense devotion that the Gopa Vishvamitra feels. Namaskar.